Hi, I'm Jeremiah Prophet.
And I'm Shander Prophet. Welcome to another episode of Prophet's Resurrection Land Cruisers TV.
In this episode, we're going to feature this 1976 body-off FJ40 Restoration.
But before that, let's go out in the shop and see what the guys are up to.
All right. Wires and tubes. Randy, what are you doing?
Hey Jeremiah, not much. Well, we're doing a LS conversion on this 60 series. And in order to do it right, we've got to change the fuel delivery system and all the wiring. You can see right here, a little while ago, I put in a fuel filter with a built-in return. Had to plumb it all in with high pressure fuel injection line and clamps and run it up to the motor. All the wiring is for the electronic fuel pump to run off the new engine's computer and the emission system. I'm hooking up the wires to do the evaporator canister right now.
Because it's going to be smog legal for 50 states, hopefully, right?
Yeah, it should be.
We set up all of our engine conversions to be 50 state smog legal because you never know, even though the owner of this doesn't live in California, you may need to go there one day, or you may sell the car to somebody from California. So
plus we care about the environment.
Well, that's true. We don't want any harmful pollutants out there if we can help it. So this return style filter, some LS engines only have one fuel line going to them and some have two. The ones that only have one fuel line, the return actually has to happen back here. So what happens here is that excess fuel pressure is returned to the tank right here as opposed to going through the engine and back to the tank. A little bit different setup, but it works good. Randy, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
We'll come back and check on you later.
All right, I should be putting the transmission in later this afternoon.
All right. So I want to take advantage of the fact there's no transmission in here to show you three things about an LS swap that I get a lot of questions about for people who might want to do them themselves. First of all, this oil pan is new and it's a Hummer 3 oil pan. It is the lower profile, smaller oil pan that's necessary to clear a 5.3 and an FJ60 or 62 that only has 2.5 inches of lift. And so they're available everywhere for a couple $100 with the pickup and the tube and everything. Hummer 3 oil pan makes these fit a lot better. The next thing I want to show you is the exhaust system. So on this conversion, we're using the stock exhaust manifolds from the truck or Yukon or Tahoe that this 5.3 was out of. You don't have to use headers. And even though headers are cool, the stock exhaust manifolds are really, really nice, especially if you have EGR or air, and to make these emissions compliant. And so they just barely fit though. And if you look right here, you can see that we had to cut the bottom of this stud off to clear the frame. And it will still, except the collector and the exhaust and all of the ones that we do with the stock manifolds, they look just like that. So if you're doing a conversion yourself, and contemplating whether or not to go headers or not, know that you don't have to with an automatic or with a manual transmission. You can still clear the exhaust manifolds. They're a little bit closer or farther away from the frame on this side, and we do have to modify the brake lines so that the exhaust and the brake lines aren't too close together. But that's a cool thing about it. So lastly, our engine mounting system and transfer case mounting system. And you can see we've got a bushing isolated system. And there's a frame gusset here, a fish plate here, that is going to reinforce the frame so that the tube that we use has something super beefy to mount to. This is a system that's got a lot of wheels on it. In other words, it's super adjustable, and we can place lots of different kinds of engines just about anywhere we want with it. And so it's a good unit. And then Randy's got the cross member. Thanks, Randy. So everybody wants, the cross member's probably the hardest part of mounting an engine is figuring out what to do with the cross member. And I've seen so many bad designs that I thought I would share this. So what we've got is a laser cut plate that has the same factory holes in it as the factory cross member did, and that allows us to just take a big piece of 5/8 or 1/2 inch in this case by 4-inch flat bar, and we bend it up to so that the isolator mounts right here, and then the drive shaft, you can see a little bump right here for the drive shaft, and this just bolts to the factory holes. and the transmission transfer case will sit right there. It's a clean setup, and it's easy to do, and plenty strong. And there you go, LS swap tech tip. Bob doesn't like it when people scratch his paint. Bob, what does it make you want to do? Kill somebody?
Yeah. Scream like a little girl.
Yeah. Bob is not a magician.
That's what he told us.
Bob is not a magician.
Yeah.
Not a magician.
Yeah. So, as conscientious as mechanics can be, sometimes scratches happen, and Bob is not a magician.
Not a magician.
Everybody thinks that you can just touch it up, it'll be okay. Ah, it's a scratch, just touch it up.
Oh, it's just custom paint, no big deal.
Yeah, well, we can touch it up real quick. It's so important to not damage this tub. If we put a scratch right here, then theoretically the only right way to fix it is to strip everything off and repaint.
Start from
the
scratch.
whole thing. There's not a good spot to start and stop and leave a line, right? You got to go all the way back. So we've got another cool Cummins 2.8 swap going on, and this one's a little unique. It's a 60 series, but specifically a BJ60, which is slightly different in a couple of ways, but Dave's gonna tell us about one of them.
Well, one of the things different on a BJ60 is that this particular one had a 3B, but it had a vacuum pump on the backside of the alternator that would have powered a vacuum assist clutch system and a power booster for your brakes. So this particular one, we're plumbing in vacuum sources that we wouldn't normally have on other FJ60s. This also has a vacuum shifted transfer case. So we have some different requirements for our vacuum system on this particular setup.
We decided to keep the factory reservoir, right?
Yep, we're
and
reusing
that sort of vacuum distribution system that has enough capacity to run all these different vacuum related things at the same time.
And it's a double isolated reservoir so that when you use your brakes, you don't lose vacuum assist for your clutch and vice versa. This is the factory BJ60 vacuum reservoir that we're tying back into, and we're utilizing a old diesel fuel line for a vacuum line as a source to wrap around on the backside.
All kind of restored, because this is not a restoration, but it did have pretty significant A-pillar rust, right? So we repaired that, and we painted the roof and the cowling and just the top part of the firewall. And so that just leads into, oh, that looks pretty, so you can't bolt dirty, dingy, rusty things back on. So now you have to re-zinc the lines, re-zinc the clamps, re-zinc the bolts. It's gotta all look good. It's looking good, Dave.
Thank you.
Let's go drive it. Is it ready?
I will.
Is it ready to drive? Soon.
Flintstone style.
Yeah. You might be wondering, what on earth is Zach doing to this axle housing? This is a factory axle housing that's going under an FJ60 that we're restoring. What are you doing, Zach?
I am chipping the slag balls off of it.
You're chipping the slag balls off of it. Why?
Well, it makes the paint go on easier for sanding, and it just looks nicer all around.
Yeah, there's Toyota's welding techniques that they used. Sort of the slag and sparks that would jump off the welds would just stick to the axle housing, and so everywhere you get these little snaggy dingleberries that are on there, and it does make it hard to sand. And even when it's painted, it just sort of looks like, maybe it looks like it was dirty or there was sand on it or something like that when you painted it. We can't have that.
No.
So it literally means an hour? How long?
For 2 axles, and if you're, working really hard, you can get it done in 45 minutes.
So 45 minutes or an hour of just that before you can even sand really all of it, so you can get everything ready to paint. It's a lot of work to make stuff really nice, isn't it?
Yes.
We restore a lot of FJ40s here at Profits, but this 1976 Freeborn Red Stage 3 restoration is one of my favorites. Since we're already in the vehicle, let's talk a little bit about the interior. As usual, we kept the classic FJ40 dash configuration, but we added Dakota digital gauges, a retro stereo, and vintage air AC. The OEM seats, as well as the factory steering wheel, were recovered in black leather. The floor of this FJ40 is covered in our usual body color Vortex industrial spray liner. The center console consists of our version of the standard Tuffy security console. We lowered the profile and changed the configuration of the top and cup holders. This modernized FJ40 interior definitely retains its classic feel. We retained the original 2F engine and gave it a cosmetic restoration. As with all of our body off restorations, the frame was powder coated and every component has been completely restored. This FJ40 received our new custom front bumper and worn winch. The rear bumper is our standard, but with only one swing out for the ease of passenger entry and exit. The suspension is an Old Man Emu 2.5-inch lift with Bilstein shocks and our own Prophet's Resurrection Land Cruiser shackle reversal. The tires are 33-10-50 R15 Maxxis Razor MTs. A restoration like this is incredibly intensive, but to see a Land Cruiser as beautiful as this back on the road again makes it all worth it.
So what on earth is this? We had to take this opportunity to show something that you don't normally see. This is our roll cage, our standard family roll cage, and it's our frame tie-in kit. And we had the roll cage powder coated, the frame is ready for the body. The body is actually painted and ready to put on, but this is an opportunity to show a pretty cool thing about our family cage tie-down kit. So as you can see, the roll cage is suspended. It's sitting on top of the frame tie-ins. And the frame tie-ins look something like this. This is a plate that would be the bottom foot of the roll cage, and then there's another plate just like it welded to the frame or to a support member coming off of the frame. And then to isolate the cage from the sheet metal, we've got this set up on the underside, and then a bolt goes through there. So what that does is it provides a roll cage mount that acts like a body mount, so that the two pieces of metal, if they just sandwich the sheet metal without isolation, after a while they might corrode and fatigue the sheet metal and crack it around the plate. So in order to keep that from happening, we've got bushing isolated roll cage tie-ins in 4 places on our family cage. And it also looks like a pretty cool, clear, this is a clear coat paint job. No, there's sheet metal here, but it's just clear. It's like Wonder Woman's Land Cruiser. This red FJ40 is not the same one, obviously, that we started with at the beginning, but it's the same color. This is a little bit newer. What year is this?
82.
1982.
Same age as me.
Hey! Oh, cool. So it's 69 years old, and it's in pretty good shape for that old. Not like Bob.
It's in better shape than I am at this point.
Yeah. Bob, you need a restoration.
Yeah, too bad we can't restore you.
Yeah. So this is a nearly stock restoration, and we're going to feature it when it's done, but sort of a sneak peek going on. What's cool about this truck, Jordy?
Oh, there's a ton of things that are cool about this truck. Really, though, we're putting it back to its more or less original condition. The owner has fond memories of being in this truck as a little boy, and so we're going to bring it back to the way he remembers it when he was just a kid. So
yeah, little old school, little new school, but for the most part, back to stock. It's got 331250s, which we don't do very often, and they're on custom wheels. I'll show you something cool about the wheels in a minute. But that's the look, right, from the 80s that everybody remembers, that sort of squatty, fat tire look. And what else you got, Bob? What are you doing?
I'm just doing some little assembly stuff right now, putting the glove box back together.
It's kind of the best part, right? This is when we get to
put... My favorite part, for sure.
Yeah. This is when we get to put every little bolt and spring and clip and fastener on this has been hand refinished. So this is when you get to see that contrast of new weather stripping and, you know, new black plastic parts like the dash.
You get to see all the hard work.
Zinc cable. Yeah, it's pretty. What are we gonna put right here?
custom-made Profits Cruisers 4-speed dash plaque.
That's right. 4-speed. Not too many of those anymore. We do lots of 5-speeds. This one's staying old school.
Don't shut that all the way until it's adjusted, because then you won't be able to open it again. I found that out the hard way.
So enjoy some of the details on this truck now, but we'll be featuring it later. And in a minute, I'll show you what we did with the wheels. So you guys are probably going to recognize this as an FJ43. FJ43s are specific to South America, and they are about 13 3/4 inches longer than a regular 40 series. That makes them pretty cool to build. But FJ43s and all of the 40 series Land Cruisers from South America are missing a few things that we got in North America that make them what I think is a little bit nicer. So I'm going to call this our North Americanized FJ43, and let me show you what we've done to it to make it that way. So first of all, there is the top. None of the 43s that were sold in Colombia had a hard top. They were all soft tops from the factory. And there's a couple of different companies in Colombia that build aftermarket tops for them, but they're not quite as nice as the ones that Toyota built. So we decided to build a Toyota style hardtop that looks just like it was done from Toyota. So it's 13 3/4 inches longer, just like the body that it's on, but it's using all Toyota parts. And I think it looks a lot nicer than those aftermarket tops. So when we built the hardtop, we also added ambulance doors. A 43 would have had full height doors, but they were soft on the top and hard on the bottom, and they didn't fit good even from the factory back then. So we added ambulance doors, which are a handy feature, and it's a crazy amount of work to do it because the opening on the tub isn't exactly right. So when we added the ambulance doors, of course the top, because we used an ambulance door top, already had the provisions, but we had to add this inside 90-degree lip, which you've probably seen in a different episode, so that the ambulance doors have a nice flush fit when they're closed. And that makes them fit on this vehicle just as good as they would on a Toyota-built FJ40 that's sold in North America. I think this FJ43 is one sweet North Americanized rig. We've added this forward-facing fold and tumble bench seat, and behind it 2 40 series jump seats. And that's going to allow 4 to 5 passengers in the back, but also the use of a car seat, which is important when you've got a wee one in the family. And what's cool is this fold and tumble seat will fold forward, and we can open up all this space so you can use it for cargo again. So this is going to allow us to go from passenger mode to cargo mode in just a few seconds. So another thing the FJ43s didn't have is a heater. Some of them had factory air conditioning, but none of them had a heater. This is Colorado and it's cold here, so we decided to add a heater, and in this case also air conditioning. So we've got some HVAC in this FJ43. And then if you'll notice, another change is we've added a dashboard and dash pads. FJ43s had none of this. It was a very plain looking dash, and it's sort of a safety feature, but also more just visually appealing. There's more contrast. I think the interior looks a lot nicer with the addition of these North American features that we added into this FJ43. So on lots of our builds, we build a 6-point roll cage, and this is the A-hoop that we've been using for years that conforms well to the dash. This A-hoop is good because it allows us to be able to roll the window up and down. In other words, this window crank doesn't hit it like some cages do. And then also, it's just as far forward as it can be, especially where your feet go in and out of the vehicle, so it's nice. But this quality spot is actually about the visor. So when you put a 6-point roll cage or an A-hoop in an FJ40, oftentimes the visor, well always, the visor will not work because it's over here so far that it would be kind of behind the roll bar and you wouldn't be able to raise it and lower it. So what we do is we take the visors apart, and to make the visor still work nicely, this is the arm that's inside of an OEM visor. and it just needs to be lengthened about 3 inches to move the visor over far enough to where it functions normally. So this is a little bit different year, but this one's already been lengthened. You can see the difference. We lengthen them just by welding in a piece of the same size rod, and then we re-zinc the piece so that it looks like it's still as it was from the factory. So visor extensions, just one of the little details that makes these builds so much fun and so nice when they're done. So this style of wheel is unique to 1980 through 83 40 Series Land Cruisers and all FJ60s and 62s that were sold in the United States. They're chrome on the FJ60 and 62 and white on the 40s, but it's the same wheel. So what's unique about this wheel is that it's wider. We custom built it to be an 8-inch wide wheel instead of a 6-inch wide wheel, which it had from the factory. Because, well, like we said earlier, this client wanted the 33-12-50, which is that squatty look that he remembers and that he grew up with. So how do you do that? Well, it's not too bad actually. It takes some time. You buy an 8-inch wheel shell, which is just this part of the wheel that is blank with no center in it. Sometimes they're not available and you have to actually buy a whole different wheel and cut the center out, but the 8-inch by 15-inch ones are easy to get. So you buy an 8-inch wheel shell, and then you take a set of factory wheels. In this case we used old rusty FJ60 wheels because those are the ones that are most plentiful, and we cut the center out and then re-weld it on the inside. You're gonna put it in a big lathe and get it in there where you want it with the right back spacing, and then we re-weld it in there so that it's straight and true, but in the middle of a wider wheel shell. So if you look at this wheel as opposed to this one, which is right next to us, you can see how much narrower it is from the face of the wheel to the outside. This is a factory FJ40 or FJ60 wheel that's been powder coated gray, and it's a lot narrower.
Thanks for watching Profits Resurrection Land Cruisers TV. If you like this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right, and you can check out all of our stuff on Instagram at ProCruiser and also on Facebook at Resurrection Land Cruisers. And our website is resurrectionlandcruisers.com.
Purple?
Yeah. Robert's going, it is dark charcoal.
It's already kind of dark.
Not dark enough. Darker charcoal. Darkole. Yeah. Darkole sounds like a evil Disney character. Lord Darkole. I said this is our home gym. We have to install every roll cage so that we can work out. Hey Randy, who loves Jeeps now? Huh? Who loves them now? I can do chin-ups. This?
Try to do a chin-up right now would be horrible.
You can do a chin-up.
Yeah.
Who can do a chin-up? Bob, I bet you can do more than me.
I'm gonna do one.
Oh, I just did 4.
I used to be able to do like 20, but then I gained like 30 pounds and I can't.
Now you can do -10 chin-ups?
Yeah.
10, yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 is enough.
I can probably reach my tippy toes and go over it.